guys, welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. All right. Stephen A. Smith, he definitely has said a lot of things that has been in left field, controversial, and stupid over the years. Now, he went on to Fox News and had a sit down with Sean Hannity, who is pretty much Trump's homeboy. And the things that he said were just 100% infuriating, but a lot of things were not with fact and with merit, and honestly, insulting. When I've heard people try to equate Black people being in support of Trump because he is going through these things in the legal system, one, we have to put into perspective that the crap that he's going through is his own doing. No one's persecuting him. He's not Jesus Christ being put up on the cross, and he speaks to people in his base to say, I'm being persecuted for you. They're doing this because they don't want me to be in office again. These things were happening. One, the stuff with Stormy Daniels, his own attorney was tried, prosecuted, convicted, and served time in prison for. And the only reason why he was released early was because of COVID. And if some people want to be petty, which to be honest with you, I think this is with merit, I believe those things were done under Trump's administration because of some payback to Michael Cohen. Because if anybody really paid attention and is paying attention right now, all this man does is, if you turn against him, you're not loyal. And then he wants to try to come at these people, every single person. And I don't know how anybody would want someone like that to be in office. For me, this is not a Republican and a Democrat situation. But I digress. I want to let Roland Martin really take this one over. I'm going to let him share because I love he comes with all of the receipts, and I may interject from time to time, but I want to let him go in on Stephen A. Smith. So let's just go ahead and get into this.
Today, here I am. I'm moving, and I'm moving to a new house and unpacking and packing, and lots of it's happening. So I'm looking at social media, and all of a sudden, I see people acting the fool, losing their mind, talking about some comments Stephen A. Smith made on the Sean Hannity show, and I see this 30 or 40-second clip that was posted. And anytime I hear some comments, what I like to do is I always like to say, what actually precipitated the comment? What set the comment up? What was the question? What was it? And so I want to walk through right now this whole segment, because even when I saw it at home, there were some problems that I had with it from a factual standpoint. So roll it.
All right. Now, last night we showed you a clip from my next guest who has a message for the Democratic Party. Here's a reminder.
It's much ado about nothing. To my liberal friends out there, all you're doing is showing that you're scared you can't beat them on the issues and the merits.
Here now with more. ESPN host, the one, the only, he hates to admit he's a friend of mine. You can admit it. Just say it. My friend Stephen A. Smith is here.
Of course we're
I'll
friends,
be asked Anyway, great to have you. I thought that was gutsy. I kind of like your podcast because you go off into, other topics besides the area of expertise that you're in, which is sports. You said that. First, the question I have is, what was the reaction to that?
Obviously, I took a lot of heat. A lot of people didn't like the fact that I said it. They wish that I had it. And when I give a damn, I'll let you know. I don't care. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak what I believe to be true. And when I think about Donald Trump, I think about this case in New York. I mean, I'm looking at the Democrats right now. And again, primarily, I have voted Democrat throughout my life, but I'm utterly disgusted with what I'm seeing because it seems to me that they're trying to use the law and the courts. They've clearly politicized this thing with Donald because they can't come up with a strategy to offset the momentum he's clearly gained.
See, that right there is some bullcrap because what he is doing, this is so dangerous. I don't really think people get how dangerous this is that he really sat on Fox News of all stations, which is not news. It's propaganda. It's propaganda. Let's just be clear. And he sat and said that they can't beat him on the merits, so they're using the justice system to try to take him down. So what he's pretty much doing is he is giving this lie that Trump is pushing, and a lot of people believe that the election was stolen the last time around. And listen, this is not saying that people love Joe Biden. I don't even know why people try to put that into place to say, well, if you don't like Trump, then that means you love Joe Biden. I don't love any of these people. I don't love any of them. But that's what he's doing by saying that. And the law is the law. And you're pretty much saying that this crap that he has done that has been against the rules and against the laws, just let him slide because he was the president and because he's running for president again. The reason he's even doing it, one, of course, it's like he has gotten a taste of that power and he never wants to get rid of it. And two, he wants to be in office because he wants to do his best to dissolve these situations and absolve himself of these things because, well, I'm the president, so I cannot be prosecuted. And it's bullcrap.
In at least 5 polls, he's up. He's up in the polls over Biden in at least 5 polls that I counted. That's the reality of the situation. Despite the counts against them, the indictments against them, being impeached twice and all of this other stuff, he is the presumptive GOP nominee. And you don't seem to have the issues in your favor, you believe. So because of that, you're going to manipulate the system as best as you possibly can to avoid him possibly running for re-election again. That appears to be their strategy, but I'm here to tell you, it's not working. It's not working at all. And to be quite honest with you, I don't mind the fact that it's not working because I might not be a supporter of Donald Trump, but I want him to lose the right way. I want him to lose because you have better ideas and you make your case to the American people better than he does. That's why I want him to lose. I don't want him to lose the way they're trying to make him lose because I actually think that the case in New York City is pretty weak, if not flat out bogus. Have you remember John Edwards? Have you remember Gary Hart? Have you remembered some of the things that Clinton has gone through? Now we're going to talk about a hush money case that took place while he was running for election in 2016, but he was in office until 2020, and now here you are in 2024, months before another election, and he's the presumptive GOP nominee, and this is what you're trying to do. It's a disgrace. It's weak. It's pathetic. And somebody needs to say it. The Democrats need to come up with a better strategy.
We all can have our opinion on something, but what we cannot have are our own facts on something. So what Stephen A. had to say in terms of by saying that this is bogus, here's the problem. What Donald Trump is on trial for is literally the exact same thing his attorney pled guilty on. Henry, go to my iPad. This is a press release from August 21st, 2018, from the Department of Justice, from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Southern District of New York. It says Michael Cohen pleads guilty in Manhattan federal court to 8 counts, including criminal tax evasion and campaign finance violations. So wait a minute. If the charges against Trump are bogus, were the charges against Michael Cohen bogus? The facts are the facts. If you break the law, you break the law. Here we have the attorney for Donald Trump who pled guilty to the charges. That wasn't a Democratic setup. No Democrat made Donald Trump illegally pay off a porn star and use his attorney to hide the payoff because he did not want the voters to know about it.
Exactly.
Let me remind Stephen A. and Sean Hannity, this happened before the election because Trump did not want the world to know that he paid off a porn star. This is called a fact. So it's hard to call Trump's trial bogus when it's literally the exact same charges that his own lawyer faced that he pled guilty to. So this is not a question of they're trying to get Trump. They got Cohen.
Exactly. Like, this is that's the thing that is so stupid about what Stephen A. Smith said. Everything that he said, it holds no weight. Everything. Because how in the world could they charge Michael Cohen with this? He pled guilty. He was in prison. And Trump was even named in that as co-conspirator number 1 or whatever they labeled it as, but they didn't put his name, but everybody knew who they were talking about. How in the world does his attorney serve time for this crime that he did for him, for Trump, but Trump doesn't? And then Trump tried to back away. Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen about that. I don't really know. Why would Michael Cohen pay Stormy Daniels this money? Stormy Daniels did not run for office. Michael Cohen didn't run for office. Michael Cohen didn't stick his ding-a-ling in this woman and try to hide it from the American public, hoping that nobody would find out about it. So, hey, let's pay her so she doesn't say anything about it because we don't want this to affect the minds of the voters. But they did that. But they're now trying to say that these crimes that he has been charged with, that he's up on trial for now, they don't want this to affect the minds of the voters. Like, are we serious right now?
And he pled guilty to the exact same thing. Now, when Stephen A. was talking there, he mentioned several people. He mentioned John Edwards, and he mentioned Bill Clinton. Interesting. Henry, go to my iPad. On June 3rd, 2011, this is a press release from the Department of Justice. Former Senate and presidential candidate John Edwards charged for alleged role in scheme to violate federal campaign finance laws.
See, Stephen A. Smith doesn't know what he's talking about. And Sean Hannity knows that. But it's like, yeah, this is a good boy. Go ahead. Go ahead and say what I want you to say because you're a black man. Yeah, I'm saying these things, but it's better if you say it than if I say it because you can convince your people more than I can. Dummy.
Now, this was, of course, after the fact. And remember, he was the VP nominee for John Kerry. He was charged in 2011. He, of course, was a former United States Senator. Was this Republicans going after a Democrat, John Edwards, in order to keep a Democrat out of the White House? Hold up. My bad. The date here says Friday, June 3rd, 2011. Oh, a Democrat was in the White House. Oh, I'm sorry. Was Obama president? Obama was elected 2009. Am I right? So this is 6-count indictment against former Senator John Edwards for violating federal election laws during his campaign for president of the United States. Quote, public servants are held to the same laws. This is the key. Public servants are held to the same laws as everyone else in this country. The position sought does not exempt anyone, even those running for president of the United States. See, here's the problem here. When I saw the segment, and then when I hear these conservatives, what they're suggesting is going after Donald Trump is just so wrong. But if you don't do wrong shit, they don't go after you.
That part.
Has anyone bothered to remember that there's a reason why he is the first former president to ever be indicted after serving? Because he did wrong shit. Now, Stephen A. also mentioned, well, he did these things before he won, and they waited all this time. That's because there is a document in the Department of Justice, which, by the way, was written under the Richard Nixon Department of Justice, because it was written so he could not get indicted while president, that says you can't go after a president while they're in office. That's actually a DOJ letter. That's actually not a ruling from a judge. That's not a ruling from the Supreme Court. That's not a law from Congress. That is a memo written under the Nixon Department of Justice.
All facts.
These folks are facts. That's the case. Now, the actions of Trump took place before. Guess what? Can't go after him while he's president. You pursue the charges afterwards because he no longer has immunity from prosecution. So that's actually why you waited. And then when we talk about these cases against Donald Trump, when we look at these 4 indictments, okay, you got the hush money. You got that one. And then, of course, you have the federal indictments on classified documents in Florida. Why is that important? That's important because, let's remember, the Library of Congress kept asking Trump, the archives, can you turn the documents in? Can you turn them in? He would turn them in. Can you please turn the documents in? He wouldn't turn them in. Can you turn the documents in? He wouldn't turn them in. Can you turn the documents in? He wouldn't turn them in. The lawyers were negotiating with his lawyers for a very long time. He told his lawyers what he didn't have. Then, of course, he said, oh, no, I didn't move documents, but he did. He wasn't the only person who was charged. What did he? So, Stephen A., Sean Hannity, why is that a case? Because he broke the law.
Exactly. And he even wanted the attorneys to say, well, can't we just tell them that we don't have it? The man is a straight up and down liar who cares nothing about the laws and believes he is above them. So to have somebody stupid like Stephen A. Smith out here saying, well, they can't beat him on the merits, so they're just using the justice system to try to take him down, is bullcrap.
There's a sign above the Supreme Court says equal justice under law. This man has never been held to account. So how is he somehow being persecuted? All he had to do was turn the documents in. End of conversation. No FBI showing up at Mar-a-Lago, no lawyers, no indictments, no drama, no trial. No. He said, my document. I can keep my documents. But he was wrong. They were classified documents. He did not declassify them while president. You can't declassify when you no longer have the power. So to even suggest that this case is political persecution, no, he broke the law. I just did a segment where a black man was pulled over for a broken taillight, And when the cops pulled him over, he had a civil issue, a civil warrant. They called, they said, yes, bring him in. And they tried to bring him in. He eventually gets shot. That happened. If you break the law, or if or you're alleged to break the law, you're going to go to trial. You have the third case. Okay? The 2020 election. Interfering with the election. Is this trial bogus? Did Donald Trump not call and say, find me those 11,000 votes? Oh, guess what? There have been at least 3 people who've already pled guilty who were indicted with Trump. So if this is a bogus case, why did they plead guilty? One of them was a lawyer. It could be because they realized their asses were guilty. And they agreed to testify against the other defendants, including Trump. You can't call that trial bogus. You can't say it's unfair. The Democrats are going after him. If you break the law, you break the law. This man is not above reproach. This man cannot just do whatever it is that he wants to do.
And the truth of the matter is he's 77, 78 years old, and he's gone all of these years with pretty much not being held accountable for anything. All of the people that he has not paid. He owes so many people so much money. He doesn't want to be held accountable for anything, civilly or criminally. Let's just be real.
Tish James in New York took him to court for inflating his assets. Is that bogus? Reminds me of a certain man named Dan Morales. Dan Morales was a former Attorney General of Texas. Henry, go to my iPad. Dan Morales pled guilty to mail fraud and filing a false tax return. Morales pled guilty to counts 9 and 11 of the March 6, 2003 indictment. He admitted that he backdated official government contracts and forged government records for his personal enrichment and that of his friends. Count 11 of the indictment references Morales claiming his 1998 income as $39,734 when he knew the income to be substantially in excess of the amount stated on his income tax return. So now let's compare. Dan Morales went to prison for 4 years. That's a federal indictment. Donald Trump was accused and went to civil court of inflating his assets in order to apply for business loans. The reason I know the Dan Morales story, Dan Morales did the exact same thing. He went and applied for houses and cars, inflating. So are we saying that the Dan Morales case was bogus? See, this is the problem when you don't want to deal with facts. I'm not dealing with emotion. Here's the reality. Donald Trump literally lied about the size of his condo in Trump Tower. You know the same man who they call small hands, and that bothered him because he thinks something else is small. He lied. He lied. He told them, oh, my apartment is 30,000 square feet. It wasn't. I think it was like 10 or 11. It's a lie. He literally lied to obtain loans. You can't do that. If Roland Martin filled out a loan application and said, I've got a 25,000 square foot house, and my house is valued at $4 million, and I got a 6,000 square foot house that's valued at $1 million, I lied. I can be prosecuted. So if I can be prosecuted, why can't Trump be prosecuted? Prosecuted and persecuted are two different things. Press play. Because this ain't working.
Let me ask you this. We look at polls. Polls are always broken down demographically, and you see this major erosion in the Democratic base for Biden. African Americans, Hispanic Americans, young people, suburban women, for example. I mean, numbers that we've never seen before. In terms of a Democrat. If he doesn't get his base back, which I would argue he's been trying to do, starting with the State of the Union and his jacked up address, he's got no...
Did you catch that? His jacked up address. Okay, whatever, Sean.
And if Donald Trump could hold on to 5, 10, 15% of the numbers that he has now, he will win the next election.
Let me say something real quick. The reason why... there's a number of reasons why this infuriates me, but one of the reasons why I even talk about this politics and BS is the fact that, yes, this system is definitely corrupt, but it is corrupt to swing in the direction of the people like Donald Trump, of the people like the Sean Hannitys, and the people that really want to control. When Barack Obama, who I was not a fan of, was president for 8 years, when he was elected the first time, do you remember what Mitch McConnell said? Our goal is to make sure that Barack Obama is a one-term president. They had a Republican House and Republican Senate, and they really did not want to work with this man. They really didn't want to. They were pissed that this man, who's biracial, was elected to be the president. And they did so much, and they're still doing it when it comes to the system, which is already corrupt, because why do we still use this electoral college bullcrap? It should be every vote counts, not the electorates or whatever they call it, right? But they do all of this stuff with gerrymandering. They remove people from the voter rolls. I told you all, I vote. I don't believe sometimes that my vote even counts, but the reason I do it is because I feel like they fight so hard to prevent people like myself from voting that it's like it must be something about it. So I'm going to do it. And I remember once when I went to vote, I had my voter registration card, I got my ID, but they were saying that I wasn't on the roll. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I have been voting since I had the opportunity to do so. They just purged me from it because the previous year or whatever it was some year that I did not vote for one of the elections. It wasn't a presidential election, but they just removed me. They purge people from the voter rolls. They should not be able to do that. So, yeah, it definitely is corrupt. But for Sean Hannity to sit here and talk about the percentages, well, if he gets this percentage and if he gets this percentage, they should not be doing the type of stuff that they're doing to prevent people from voting, but they do this type of stuff all of the time. Because if you look at the history, the Republicans who have won the presidential race for the past, I don't know how many terms, they only won because of the Electoral College. They did not win the popular vote. So look at that. That alone speaks volumes. They don't want the majority to be able to elect the president. So they just want the small, minute amount of people to be able to elect this person who's going to be the president of what they call the free world. And that shouldn't be, but they do stuff like this all of the time.
Why is that happening? That's my question.
Right there. Let's see. Right there would have been great for Stephen A. to say, Sean, allow me to correct you. Because what Sean is doing is he is speaking about these polls, namely the New York Times and CNN poll that has been showing that, Donald Trump is going to get he's getting 23% of black support. Okay? Really? That's what you've been seeing, right? Well, guess what? Do you know what Fox News hasn't done? And unfortunately, what most mainstream media hasn't done, but we've done? we actually talked to the two black pollsters who did polls that specifically surveyed black people. Terrence Woodbury did a poll for Higher Heights of America and the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, the Black Women's Roundtable. He did a poll. They specifically polled black people. Their poll is completely different from the New York Times CNN poll. Now, let me help y'all out with some basic math. If the New York Times CNN poll polled 800 people, that means they polled a very small number of black people. So of their poll, a small number of black people said, I'm backing Trump. So when the stories were done, oh my God, Trump is getting 23% of the black vote. They were hyperventilating on Fox News, on MSNBC, and CNN, and all about, oh my God. They were like, oh my God, every single day. But then Terrence Woodbury's poll comes out, where 800 black people were polled. None of them covered it. Told a different story. Cornell Belcher, he did a poll for Black Pac, told a different story. Who did he poll? All black people. So, if you're going to cite a poll on television, or in Sean Hannity's case, he tells Stephen A, 5 polls, that's where Stephen A should have said, let me help you out, Sean. This poll here of specifically black voters told a whole different story. That completely changes that narrative. But it's not just that. If you don't want to go with that poll, if you don't want to go with that one, well, guess what? The folks at Pew recently did a poll. And the folks at Pew recently showed that Trump ain't getting more than 10% of black voters. Oops. Say what? Did you just say that? In fact, check this out. I was sitting here looking at a tweet today, and you're going to love this here. This came out, and it shows, and the tweet was, at this stage of the race, the black and Hispanic support for Biden at this stage is on par with previous years. Do you see that orange line? That's the 2020 election. The green line is 2016. So at this point, so you see right there where the purple line is, at this point right here, at about 15, 18 weeks, the numbers are on par with previous elections. This right here is net black support. Then you have net Hispanic support. So what you now are seeing Biden's poll numbers increase with black and Hispanic voters. Guess what you also are seeing while that is happening? You're now seeing Biden closing the gap in the various battleground states with Trump. Y'all, it's April. So to think that April is going to look like November is crazy. This is why research, studying, examining the issues absolutely matter. Press play.
Well, first of all, the streets don't seem safe, and people want safety. We can sit up there and lament, quote unquote, law and order, which is what Donald Trump used to verbalize. But the fact is, the American people like law and order. We want our streets safe. We want to make sure that you've committed a crime, you get to go to jail. You don't sit up there and get arrested and you're out the same day.
Except him, right? Law and order, except him. And except the people that were crashing the Capitol on January 6th, that now he is saying are persecuted, and if he is president again, he's going to be releasing them. Okay.
Or to assault people when you're out the same day. That's number one. Obviously, number two, the economy, which is usually number one, because people don't understand this when it comes, especially the black folks. Okay, let me tell you something right now, Sean. When you talk about the economy, to black folks, that means money. To everybody, it means money, but especially to us, okay, who are no longer the dominant minority in this country. Those are the Latinos. When we talk about the economy, we're not talking about, the state of affairs economically or even, the job participation rate. We're talking about the money that you keep in your pocket. When you go to the gas station and it's exorbitant prices, when you go to the supermarket and milk and bread and cheese and all of this other stuff is exorbitantly high compared to what it once was, that is a red flag to a lot of folks because
right there. So we want to compare an economy pre-COVID to post-COVID. Sure, we can do that. While doing that, though, we might want to talk about that the black unemployment rate hit a lower point under Biden than it did under Trump. We might want to talk about that more black businesses have been created under Biden than Trump. We might want to talk about the fact that you have corporations that continue to jack up prices, even though the supply chain has been significantly diminished.
Exactly. That's the thing that people don't really discuss. Corporate greed is one of the things that, I don't care if it was Trump in office, they cannot control that. It's just the fact of the matter. Corporate greed is at an all-time high.
We might want to talk about those different things. But here's the deal. Even with all of that, the fact of the matter is, when you look at these numbers, and this right here was the Newsweek story that just dropped last week, Donald Trump's hopes of black support stung by a new poll. A new poll has suggested Donald Trump would not garner significant support from black voters in November election. This is the Pew Research poll. It says 83% of black voters favor the Democratic Party, a 3% decline from 1994 when 86% aligned in this way. 12% support the Republican Party. This marks a 1% decline from 94 when 13% supported the party. Y'all, this is the actual Pew Research story. So, here's my whole point. If we're going to talk about black voters and what they are saying, we can't speak anecdotally. We actually got to use data. And the data totally disagrees with the assessment. Press play. Money you keep in your pocket is what tells you whether or not the economy is flourishing or not. So those are just a couple of components that come into the equation. And dare I say something that will probably be termed the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever had to articulate out of my mouth from a political perspective. But I got to tell you something. As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised. Stop. Hold up. Because I want y'all to run that back. Because this right here is where I'm like, huh? So what Stephen A. is saying, because I actually posted a tweet, then he responded. What he is saying, because see, two things were said at one time. That's why I want y'all to roll it back. Two things were being said at one time. He says that he's not saying that Trump is being persecuted like black people. But so I want y'all to roll it back. I want y'all to play it again, because I'm going to unpack what he just said. Go. That I've ever had to articulate out of my mouth from a political perspective. But I got to tell you something. As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through, he wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see
the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society.
Stop right
so
there.
No matter what,
I would have loved to know specifically what historic, iconic figures, because I know Dr. King went to jail. I know Dr. Jim Lawson went to jail. I know that they went to jail, but they did not hold classified documents. They did not pay off porn stars. They did not try to overturn an election. They did not overstate the value of their properties to apply for business loans. So therefore, there literally is no comparison. Press play.
what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have.
Stop.
And that's what he articulated.
When you're suffering.
Oh my God.
Go to my iPad. This story is from June. This is from 2016. Hundreds claim Donald Trump doesn't pay his bills in full. Dozens of lawsuits allege the businessman didn't pay what he owed. And you go through right here. The small businessman won a bid for a $100,000 grand piano to install in Trump's Taj Mahal. Guess what? Trump refused to pay him, only paid $30,000. Show me a black man who could do that. 200 liens since the 1980s were filed by contractors and workers who said they were stiff. Show me a black woman who could do that. 253 subcontractors on a single project were not paid in full or on time. Show me a black woman who could get away with that. 24 Fair Labor Act violations by Trump Plaza Casino and Trump Mortgage for failure to pay minimum wage or overtime. Show me a black person who could do that. Show me a black person who could get away with having a fake university and have to shut it down and still run for president and still win. Show me a black politician who actually, while in office, has refused to pay the bills for security at rallies they had and still run for president. I would love to see him. Got a story right here. Donald Trump has a long history of not picking up the check. He loves promises unfulfilled and bills unpaid. Yo, please, by all means, show me somebody black who could get away with that. Black folk don't identify with Donald Trump because Donald Trump is not being persecuted. Show me a black person, please, who could be in court and the judge issue a gag order and then this person violates the gag order. Show me a black person in America who could insult a judge and his daughter and still be walking around free. Donald Trump did that. He did that. Press play.
As unpopular as it was, as much as we didn't like to hear it, it's the truth, and there's no way around it. Those are all contributing factors to the state of affairs with the slippage that appears to be taking fold when it comes to President Biden, unfortunately.
Back to me. That's simply not true. It's in the data. Black Pact poll, Higher Heights poll, Black Women's Roundtable poll, Pew Research poll. The last four. All of that other stuff was based upon one poll with a very tiny percentage of black people. This is why facts matter. This is why data matters. Not emotion, data.
That part. So I'm going to stop it right there. You can listen to the rest of it. I have the full video link in the description box. It just goes on a little bit longer. But what matters is data, not emotions. And Stephen A. Smith getting on Fox News with all of that shucking and jiving and the emotions and, the stuff that he does on his podcast, on ESPN, where he has had to sometimes come back, not all the time, but sometimes come back and apologize after going on these rants and getting all emotional and in his feelings. And like I've said over and over again, when you operate in your feelings, it will make a fool out of you, or they will fool you. And he does that a lot. All of this stuff that he's saying, it would not be ever taking place if all of the things that Trump has been charged with and he is going up on trial for, if we replace the name Trump with Obama and Obama did all of these things, first and foremost, they wouldn't even have him running for office again, okay? And as much as people like to try to put scandals on him and whatever, he was pretty much scandalous, not scandalous, but less, no scandals, while he was in office. I'm not saying all of his policies were popular and he did everything right and he was an amazing president. I'm not saying those things. But all of the things that Trump is talking about, and he's being charged with, it's from his personal business, or he just outright was defiant and felt like he was above the law. I could just think about something and I could declassify it. Really? And he had boxes upon bankers' boxes upon bankers' boxes of documents that why do you have all of this stuff in Mar-a-Lago? Why did you even take one memo from the White House? What are you holding on to this stuff for? It's insane. It's just a lot to unpack, but I really wanted to share this with you guys. You can let me know your thoughts respectfully in the comments section below. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.